I just finished Baby Reindeer, and to say that I'm inspired by this piece of art would be an understatement. The writing, the acting, the tone, cinematography, aesthetic, everything about the show is so beautiful, and I have so much I could say about it. And as I've been writing about this show, I've realized something that I kind of come to terms with every time I analyze art. Every time I begin to talk or think or write about Baby Reindeer or any show, my focus is on how it has shaped and changed me, how it is a part of my story, how it made me feel about my story. It's kind of selfish on the surface, but I think that's the relationship that I am tempted to say we have with art. We make it part of ourselves and see it as we see ourselves, really. And watching this true story, although, who knows, I definitely don't, to which degree it was hyperbolized, if at all, but to become familiar with all of Richard Gadd's shortcomings, perceived triumphs, suffering, etc., really made something stick out to me, that whether or not you consider yourself an artist, if you're a human, your story is all you have and you should embrace it and celebrate it no matter what. Creative bravery. What stuck out to me and drew me into Baby Reindeer, and in fact, what draws me into almost everything in life that I consider artistic, is a feeling of respect for the artist's creative bravery. Their desire to tell the truth as they see it, and their commitment to doing so without compromising their vision and watering their work down, even when there isn't really a path trodden for what they're doing. And I might be wrong. I might not have seen other pieces that are like this or shows that walked so this show could run, and so to me, Baby Reindeer feels like it trailblazes in this way of bringing a true story about a wildly imperfect, human, sometimes pathetic protagonist to the stage. And also to me, it's miles more impressive given the fact that Richard has been performing this on stage for so long and now has reenacted it for television, to create something about true experiences you've had, lived experiences, traumatic experiences, then to bring them onto the stage and into television unabashedly is just incredibly respectable to me. And some may see this as an insane act, and objectively, they might not be far off, but I perceive it as an incredible degree of trust and self-compassion Richard is expressing for himself in his story. I mean, no one was watching Richard write this story. He didn't have to include bits about his feelings of compassion and connection to his sociopathic stalker. He could have left out his vulnerable retelling of his sexual confusion, frustration, and shame as a result of sexual abuse. But he put it in. He left it in. He included it. He included all of this, leaned into it and presented it honestly, not trying to justify it, but rather just to strip himself down and say, here I am, naked in the light of all that has stepped on me, lifted me up, spit on me, all that I've taken for granted, mistreated. And to me, the celebration of Richard's story by the greater public affirms that what people crave in modern pop culture are the Baby Reindeers, the art that teaches you the value in revealing your shadow, all the things you hate about yourself, loathe, wish were different. They are all what make you human and therefore your experience valuable to yourself and others. It sounds so simple, but I can't help but see it as the truth. And while we think life expects so much out of us, and we often stress over every decision we make, it is funny how ironic life seems to enjoy being, and again revealing to us that there are no mistakes. Now, this is not to say that bad things are meant to happen, or they should happen, or that we should even look at them as less negative because of our inherent resiliency that helps us overcome them. Because the truth is, that's not always the case. Some people decide that the things they've gone through are so awful, so terrible, and so insurmountable that they give up in the face of them. And it's not a matter of blaming them or not. Life is difficult. There is evil in this world, and its objective is to spread more evil, because, as we all know, light drives out darkness, so darkness wants to create more darkness. And this show had no shortage of darkness or evil. In fact, it was one of, if not the main theme. That said, the reason I say there are no mistakes is because we have the conscious choice to accept the hand life extends to us. There is so little in our control, and given the fact that all of us are in some ways at least a little bit vulnerable, or wanting or longing for something, it's easy to get caught up in evil through our desires, as Donnie did in his desire for fame and his desire to be seen and accepted as he is. We will all endure moments of pain, sometimes self-inflicted, as Donnie did, and from there we have two choices. We can learn from them, or we can reject them, hate them, blame them. And in this case, with Richard or Donnie or anyone, I wouldn't be able to call them objectively wrong for choosing the latter. Like I said before, But it's the old adage, how much more beautiful to look at what you're ashamed of about yourself and all the unfair things you've experienced and use them as armor you can take with you into life. They build character. In fact, it might be the only thing that matters, because we don't have any control over really anything besides how we choose to look at our story. We can't control how others see us. We can't control what others do to us. We can barely, if at all, control what we feel called to do, what we are inspired by. All we really have in our control is taking the action and then deciding, which is also taking action, what it means for us. And something I felt so poignantly watching Donnie talk about his addiction to hating himself, watching him fantasize about being intimate with his stalker, watching him exist and make decisions, is that there are no mistakes in life. It's not everything happening for a reason, it's you creating a reason for everything happening, walking your path, embracing your story. And the fact that Richard Gadd subscribed to that and looked in the face of all the darkness that plagued him and showed it love, said, "You are valuable, I choose to love you, I choose to accept you as you are, and therefore myself as I am," it's maybe the most important message out there. And he believed and showed all artists and really all humans the value of trusting yourself and doing it yourself. This section will be more about my admiration for multi-hyphenate Richard Gadd, the creator of this show, but it will also be about how important I perceive sharpening your self-trust and intuition to be. I don't know what I am, and with each passing day I am more and more okay with that. Some days I feel like a writer, others I feel like a musician, an actor, a philosopher, a comedian, a success, a failure, a talker, a doer. Most days I feel like all of them, and I'm right, and I also couldn't be further off. I am everything, but I'm also nothing. I am the controller, yet I have no control. All that I am is simply all that I tell myself I am. That's it. It's the story I believe about myself, and that's the power we hold. In this artistic realm that exists in the modern day, where most of us artists are at least partially waiting for someone to discover us or point to us and suddenly give us the life we read about in books and watch in movies, the answer is doing it yourself. Sure, there might be cases where someone gets lucky. In fact, that's always going to happen, and it could be you. But how much greater of an experience could it be, at least to me it's not even close, than to trust your story, embrace all that's happened to you, hide nothing, and for that to be the reason that you're now able to create your art at the highest level, which Richard will likely now be able to do for his entire career. Not even just that it's more accessible to do anything yourself nowadays with social media and technology, but that's also the power of doing it yourself, taking the action you have in your control and trusting and using everything about yourself that you have. Something to keep in mind, though, is the patience that comes with this endeavor. Donnie shows us this, as his years struggling as an actor and then comedian could be looked at as a failure, and if he chose to give up because of them, then I guess they would, because he made the choice to see them as a failure, and all that matters is how he sees it. But in reality, those are what shaped his story, made the prize that much sweeter in the end, if he doesn't already consider the prize being the story itself, which I'm sure he does. So I propose that the goal in life, or for artists or for humans, is just to try to sharpen your self-trust, your intuition, to do exactly what you feel called to do, because that simple voice that exists inside you, being inspired by something that's likely telling you to do something, it's telling you to do something practical, that's in your control. It's telling you to start small. It's only when we look at other people and start to compare ourselves that we think we have to make this grand gesture or cover 10 paces with one stride. But you must train your self-trust muscle and sharpen your intuition, because it doesn't just happen right away. The universe is waiting for you to be ready to accept what you want. But that takes consistently trusting yourself and doing the things that seem crazy because you could have only thought of them. That is exactly what you must lean into. It's part of the reason why I'm making this video. I consume a good amount of art and I love creating art in whatever form it is. But I love analyzing things that make me feel alive, that I admire and am inspired by. And I've spent a lot of time in the past saying that I had to stay in between guardrails, only be an actor, only do things the way they've been done before, only be this type of creative, without ever even knowing or checking if those guardrails actually existed or not. But those guardrails did exist because I put them up, assuming that I had to follow some path to be my definition of a real artist. It turns out I was just in the mirror, torturing myself. Now I feel more and more called to just exerting the creative energy that I have in the direction that I feel inspired by in the moment, and also having the discipline to complete a project rather than let go of it. Although sometimes letting go of it is the answer too. I'm telling you, there's no path besides your own. That's the only way I've found, and more I feel like I'm creating my path rather than trying to walk someone else's, and I can thank shows like Baby Reindeer and artists like Richard Gadd for that. Thank you so much for watching. Guys, this is my first video essay in a while, meaning like a couple months, but I can promise that when I feel called to do another, I will be back. In the meantime, if you enjoy things that I make, I post them on here, whether it be short form comedy skits, long form sketches, or my own music independently. You can go to my link tree and find everything. I'm always creating. It's just not always one channel or one topic, if that makes sense. So I love you. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.